I would like to formally and sincerely apologize to the My Hero Academia community. My actions and my words regarding your series ending was severely out of character and unfortunate. I horrifically and genuinely apologize for the words that I said. Now, for those of you who are not in the know, JJK just ended. TCB Scans just uploaded their translation, and personally, I prefer their translation over the likes of John Weary. And we're gonna be talking about the last chapter, and I'm gonna keep it real with you. For a series like JJK to have so many highs as it does, it is kind of upsetting that the final chapter goes out on a whimper. There isn't really a whole lot to really talk about with this final chapter. Obviously, there's a lot of the discourse that is talking about potential part 2 to the series, but I'm gonna keep it so real with you. I don't want this shit. I deadass do not want this shit. With the way Shinjuku Showdown was handled, with the way GEGE continued to drop and abandon plot points throughout the entirety of this franchise, I am not interested in a part 2 because, simply put, I don't believe GEGE has the ability to write a part 2. Now, before I completely dismantle this ending, pun intended, I want to talk about some of the things I liked about this ending. Because believe it or not, there's actually something that I liked about this ending. And by something, I mean there's 2 instances of things that I believe are legitimately good about this ending. Now, let's talk about the first thing first. Number 1, let's talk about this conversation between Yuji Todori, and Gojo. Now, the conversation happens sometime during the 1-month time skip. The conversation opens up with Yuji saying, I thought after Kusukabe sensei, I'd do switch training with you, Gojo sensei. I guess that'd be fine, but how do I put this? Haven't we had enough of Gojo Satoru? What? I want you to be more forward thinking, Yuji. Sure, I want you to carry on my dream should anything happen to me, but if this is where I blow out, there'll be a point where you guys grow even further than I ever did, right? I think there should be at least one among you who forgets about me and develops strength completely different from that of my own. None of us could ever forget you. You seem kind of out of character. You sound a little timid. Are you okay? You're such a kid. This is confidence. Confidence I never had before. I'm expecting great things from you. Got that, Yuji? And that conversation, I genuinely really do enjoy it, because one of the things I've always enjoyed about JJK is Gojo's dynamic with his students. You can tell that he really does care about them. Don't bring up the 236 airport scene, because quite frankly I don't have an explanation about that, and I'm trying to cope with some of the things I like about this ending, because unlike the My Hero Academia ending, I can name 2 things that I genuinely like and I think is well written. Anyways, I feel like this conversation is a little bit interesting because I like its position in the story, but one of my biggest issues with Shinjuku Showdown is the amount of character interactions that happen completely fucking off screen that GEGE Akutami decides to flash back to instead of just telling us what occurred during the 1-month time skip. This is a seriously detrimental issue. The amount of things that could have been built up towards. No Bora's return, because quite frankly I was not moved when she got up 30 minutes before Itadori really needed her to lock in, and she just miraculously locks in despite not being mentioned throughout the entirety of the series. No amount of coping, no amount of GEGE's an awesome, GEGE's a masterclass is going to change the fact that she showed up after not being in a majority of the series to help Yuji in his time of need. She isn't even a fucking character at this point, she's a walking fucking plot device. I don't even care that she shows up in this chapter. I don't care about Megami because Megami started and ended the series as the exact same dude. We don't even get to see his complete fucking domain. Right? Along with that, I hear a lot of discourse about Itadori's lack of having a domain explained or not being entirely sure what his sure hit effect is. And to me, I would like to rationalize that complaint by suggesting the idea, or personally my own headcanon, is that through his swap training with Kusukabe when Yuji was getting an understanding of barrier techniques, he decided, fuck it, I'm finna pull this out my ass. And that could be because he doesn't even understand how his domain works, like he mentions when talking with Sukuna in the middle of his domain. While as an in-series explanation, I love it. It doesn't change the fact that GEGE does leave some readers kind of up in the air. The fact that I love this conversation between Gojo and Yuji because I love when Gojo's able to interact with his students, and it's a good ass character interaction, but it doesn't change the fact that Gojo died and no one has acknowledged his death. We don't get a burial, we don't get Shoko burning his corpse, none of that. We spent a whole chapter talking about fucking simple domain lore. Who gives a shit? In fact, I thought the explanation they provided in the chapter really was enough. They could have had it be one fucking line of, oh, well, yeah, we just kind of watch you guys do it, and we kind of figured out how to do it based off that. Yeah, that would have been a suitable enough explanation. And another thing Akutami does, because he didn't want to write a 1 month time skip, is the amount of times we flash back and characters repeat information that we already know, or he flashes back at the incorrect time. When we flash back to Yuta talking about how his curse technique works, there was no fucking reason for Yuta to repeat to the audience, Itadori, in case you don't know it, Sukuna's curse techniques are within you. You just need to bring them out. As if Gojo didn't tell us this in chapter, 30-6 of the series? And like we haven't seen Itadori using dismantle for the last 15 fucking chapters. Akutami, what was the point? You're wasting fucking page space here. And knowing how Shonen Jump's endings are fucking calculated, where they're planned out months and sometimes even years in advance, did you always plan for the story to go out this way? Because if anything, you set out to ask a bunch of questions of really important ideas. Ideas brought up during the Culling Games arc. Curse spirits as an energy source. Even like during the last fucking chapter when Itadori and Sukuna were fighting, when Itadori claims, hey, let's end this cycle of curses. Right. Actually, I don't want to touch on that point. That point kind of fucking blows. Right, but if we continue down this chapter, he ends up repeating to the same thing to the curse spirit, and this whole section of Itadori, Megumi, this fake ass trio between them and Kukusaki is a waste of fucking time. I don't want to talk about it because it's not a trio. Kukusaki was gone for a majority of the series, and literally one woman shows up and they immediately start thinking about swapping Kukusaki for it. Even though Yuji doesn't agree with it, and he's like, hey, can we not let this become the trio? It doesn't change the fucking fact that Nobara was gone for a majority of the series, and her last performance before helping in Itadori's time of need was getting packed up by a fucking jobber and a Mahito clone with 10% of his fucking power. A truly abysmal showcase from Nobara Kukusaki. But another thing that I actually like about this chapter, when I say I like something about this chapter, I really do love this conversation between Mahito and Sukuna. Howdy, Sukuna. Who thought I'd see you here? Well, what's this? Over our third conversation? My technique messes with the soul after all. Consider this a vestige. Welcome to the pathway souls walk on their way down the cycle. I meant to ask you, you were lying, weren't you? To yourself and everyone else? You weren't living according to your own statute. You wanted revenge. Revenge against those who resented and persecuted that cursed, unwanted little wretch. What's the difference? I lived in only the manner I knew. That is how I choose to go on. Actually, no, I had different paths I could have traversed. Two, to be precise. And yet, I couldn't help but spit out the curses staring deep within my visceria. I feared my own curse would immolate me. Especially this panel I really do love. Should there be a next time, perhaps it'd be nice to walk a different path. That's so boring. You've gone soft, asshole. Obviously, I lost after all. What the hell? So I'm the only one left sulking like a child? God damn it. Alright, this conversation between Mahito and Sukuna is unironically one of my favorite character interactions. I love anytime Mahito and Sukuna get to interact, mostly because how much Sukuna looks down upon Mahito and couldn't be bothered. He's like a fly on the fucking wall that you couldn't be bothered to get up and spot. So seeing Sukuna have this conversation with Mahito and seeing him, and I assume that this is Urame, walk off in the distance is kind of sweet in a way. Him walking up north symbolizing that he's going to listen to what Yuji said inside of his domain and try to live with society while Mahito is stuck in the fucking past, stuck trying to deal with his irritation and his frustration towards Itadori. Along with that, I really did enjoy the moments Sukuna and Itadori spent together within his domain of Itadori trying to convince Suna to walk a different life. I think that is one of the best parts of JJK, and I'm unfortunate that we had to deal with the next couple of chapters. Right, then we get to see everybody hanging out and shit. We get to see Hikari. We get to see the fake ass trio. And then we have the door opening on the last Sukuna finger, which is Sukuna giving the audience a middle finger. Now, when I look at this chapter in a vacuum, I really, really enjoy it. But it's only in a vacuum, because I have to ignore literally every other thing that happened in this fucking story to really appreciate this chapter. I see a lot of people attempting to say that it's going full circle, and personally I disagree, because previously established in the narrative that even with the last remaining Sukuna figure, Sukuna wouldn't have enough strength left and within that one figure to fully restore himself. I don't think this is hinting to tease into a JJK2. I think this is GEGE's kind of way of saying, hey, Itadori was able to change Sukuna and his last finger is left to be left alone. I'm assuming it means that it don't have the power it does. And I think, interestingly enough, I believe these are hands kind of like coming out on it. I don't know. It could be a completely wrong interpretation of it. But like I said before, when I look at this ending in a vacuum, I really do enjoy and appreciate it. But that's only in a vacuum, right? And another thing I want to touch on in this video is the leaking culture. I think it's quite poetic that JJK became quite notorious for his leaks. Twitter accounts like Miyamura, for example. Miyamura Myth / F9XOO whatever, Jujutsu spoilers, among other people. Right, this handling of this chapter and the way they went about of distributing JJK has been one of the worst things ever. I'm gonna keep it blank. It low-key ruined any conversation and meanings to engage in JJK discourse, because all it became was agenda posting, fucking, ooh, this dude's a fraud, this dude's a bum, fuck this whole shit, instead of actually talking about the content in the chapters. And that's because accounts like Miyamura treated it like a spectacle, like a boxing match, like he had to report round by round, page by page. And Raws have always existed within Shonen Jump. I want to make this clear, this isn't exactly a whole new thing, but what's new about it is the attention that was brought to the Raws. Now, something I think is funny enough was when I believe Myth attempted to change to leaking Kagurabachi, the entire community resoundingly told him to get the fuck off. Leave our series alone, because this has actively negatively impacted JJK, right? You see a lot of people get tired of the discourse. A lot of the times, these people leak these chapters and their translations aren't even done. In fact, a lot of times they're doing their fucking translations through ChatGPT, which is crazy because if anything, ChatGPT and Google Translate is wildly known for being fucking accurate because of their own ability, or not, and because they lack the ability to interpret meaning behind words, synonyms, antonyms, whenever you can use something to heighten a meaning. So typically, you end up gonna have to wait for the translations. And when you compare it to how the One Piece community does this leaks with Rodon tweeting out a fucking, or Rodon sharing a stupid ass gif compared to Pew Piece giving some mild text spoilers or showing a cool pen or two instead of dropping the whole fucking chapter, it leads to the route of people who already don't support the official release, which in turn kind of makes the metrics for JJK look low, even though it's widely discussed online, and even though Miyamura is in the top 10 X accounts to be interacted with. There's a reason why a fucking JJK leak account should be top 10. All this nigga done is poison the fucking series, poison the discourse, and actively hurt the ability for people to talk about it, because he's spreading around these mistranslations at times, but also he's tweeting out each page individually for fucking engagement. That's all he cared about. He can hop out and he can tell me so many times, and please know, I'm not trying to just rag on Miyamura alone. I'm talking about most of his peers, his contemporaries, people who he shares the space with that are also in this game just for the money. They want the claim. They want to hop out and be like, yes, I leaked JJK first. I get all the attention, the views, and everything. Instead of just waiting for the Raws to come out. If you truly love this series, he would have given up fucking leaking it a long time ago and just changed to completely talking about spreading the love of JJK. If he really did give a fuck about this series, because after Gojo died, really, that's when a lot of the real problems of mistranslations, among other things that I've mentioned, has really become the light. It's quite unfortunate, especially when you think about leaking night. I'm always going to remember the leak night for JJK's ending because the chapter didn't come out. Someone got a hold of the first and last page. All the leakers were tweeting out things like, chill, ooh, you guys aren't ready for this chapter, as if they had already owned it, thus setting an expectation for what we were going to see in the chapter, and their only further tweets to just be glorified predictions that the communities didn't understand at the time. And this sucks because, especially for chapters when the simple domain shit happened, everyone's reading the chapters instead of being able to appreciate the content or really discuss or be like, hey, this was disappointing off of his own merits. It's disappointing because people had the expectation that a crazy ass reveal was going to happen based off these people alluding to the idea that they owned the chapters, when in reality they fucking didn't. These last 3 weeks have been utterly miserable for this community of sorts, especially today, because if you're not aware, the chapter dropped with the first and last pages. We had a 3 paragraph long summary of the chapter, which is basically Yuji and friends sat down this bum-ass cursed spirit, which I didn't talk about because to keep it entirely honest with you, I do not fucking care. It is the end of the series. I literally don't care. And the last page is Sukuna's middle finger and a series. Right, completely removing the fact that, hey, there was two genuine highlights of this chapter, being the conversation between Yuji and Gojo which was had earlier in the fucking series. But let's ignore that because I don't feel like popping a fucking vessel when I'm recording this. And the conversation Urame, Sukuna, and Mahito has, because they dropped the fucking chapter, or they dropped the leaks with only 3 fucking pages. 3 pages, and then turned around and said, oh, I hope you guys enjoying the ending, haha. Even though, like, right now, the JJK ending is being completely fucking ridiculed, slandered online. And part of it is definitely because, hey, we dropped these pages with no context, with barely any information about what was the other things going on in these chapters. Oops, my bad. Now, on that note, I've already mentioned before, but I'm gonna double down and say JJK 2 is not fucking happening. I do not believe it, and I, honest to God, do not want it. JJK and to a certain extent, My Hero both having kind of poop ass endings. The difference is with My Hero, we get a time jump and we get to see how the characters progress, even if it was a little over the time period. I don't believe there's any interesting avenue they can take a My Hero sequel series down. But with JJK, you might say, but there's potential here. I'd love to see the cast have to navigate a world without Gojo holding everything down, even though that's kind of what they had to do for Colon games. But hey, Gojo's not here. By the way, Shibuya is a massive fucking crater. There's cursed spirits everywhere. The place is inhabitable. The world knows about cursed spirits, cursed energy. Are we going to talk about any of that? I don't think so. I don't think so. Right? Let's not even talking about the shit about Maki and fucking all of them talking about we need to go save Utah. Only for the next page on the next chapter to be, oh yeah, Riku used RCT and Shoko dropped the brain back in my body. The last time we see Gojo is him slumped the fuck over. Controller dead. Because Yuta fucked up landing a point blank hollow purple. That was awesome. That was really fucking awesome. I know Akutami don't like Gojo like that, but come on, man. That shit is fucking ass, man. And it really speaks to how much of a letdown JJK has been post Shibuya. I truly and wholeheartedly believe that Shibuya would have been so much better off if it happened later in the series instead of starting, I believe, chapter 70 out of 270? Not even at the fucking halfway mark of the fucking series? It's crazy to me. Like, I don't know, because the two things I like about this ending, I only like if I'm able to look at it in complete isolation without any relation to the other events that happened in this ending or the other questions that don't get ended or answered. And to be honest, I don't care if the questions get answered or not, because I'm done. I put one shoulder up, I put the other shoulder up, I shrug. JJK is gonna have crazy, I guess, impact on the next couple of generations up until the anime finishes, but really, what does it have? It has a horrific ending, kind of akin to ALT, and I guess My Hero Academia, right? It's gonna, like, I don't know, it has a pretty good soundtrack, but it's just gonna be, is this really the fate of JJK going out on a whimper like this? And it's not, hey, I want Mappa to go in and add extra scenes. I don't think Mappa's gonna do that shit anyways. We might get an extra animation cut during one of the fights, but that's more or less what the extent of Mappa's gonna do. I'm kind of sad, I'm upset, and as the more days pass by, I start to think more and more about what really could have been done. And it speaks volumes that people are willing to thank the fucking leakers instead of the mangaka who wrote this shit. The leakers who all they did is have know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that got their hands on a Shonen Jump raw. And they might know like 3 people who can do translations, right? And I can keep harping on and yapping about this shit, but I don't really care. If I had to rate this ending in complete isolation, I believe it's like an 8 out of 10 to a high 9. I really do like it, but I have to take this ending in consideration to the events that happened before. This shit is like a 4 out of 10. I'm gonna keep it so real with you. Is it wholeheartedly worse than My Hero Academia ending? No, because this one actually made me smile and elicited emotional reaction out of me. I thought the My Hero ending was kind of whatever and was a big nothing burger. I thought All Might was funny, and that was literally it. The epilogue portion to My Hero is definitely clearing the JJK portion, because Having the bar show up with 4 chapters left is a decision of sorts. It is a complete and utter fucking decision. She does nothing, and I understand she has a whole fight sequence. I do not care because that shit did not move me in any way, shape, or form. It is the last chapter, the last fight of the series is going to be remembered as Megami, Itadori, and Yuji fighting some random fucking bum. That is awesome. Thank you, GEGE Akutami. You are a national terrorist who needs to be arrested on all counts.